welcome to the Gruber Morning Show live from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome, everybody.
So we've got an interesting background here. What I asked for today was give me a utopian world with electric vehicles everywhere and sustainable energy use all throughout the planet. And this is what it came up with. Notice all the greenery on that?
I did notice the greenery, and I mean, it looks like you've got leaves growing out of windows, and it's very interesting. And then you've got a cloud up right here.
Yeah, I see it.
That cloud looks almost like one of the blimps that they have.
Yeah. And then above my head is actually a three-bladed wind generator. Must be a new technology.
Yeah, I think so. It's, the positioning of those three blades is very odd.
Now, let me see if I can point to this. This guy right here looks much like the Local Motors product, which company that went bankrupt a couple of years ago or so here in Phoenix, Arizona. But they had little shuttles like this that had glass everywhere, and it seems like a cool concept. So we are very much focused, of course, on alternative energy and getting this planet back on track, and this picture is exemplifying that. So one of the first news items that I have is Tesla drivers were actually ranked the worst in terms of reported incidents this last year in 2024. And this is according to an insurance agency, Lending Tree. The number of accidents, driving under the influence, and speeding cases reported by Tesla drivers to insurers increased substantially in 2024 over the year before.
Wow.
The brands that did the best were actually Mercury, Pontiac, and Cadillac drivers, who had the fewest reported incidents last year, which is, of course, to me, surprising because we live here in a large retirement community in Phoenix, Sun City. And it seems like those Cadillacs are always in accidents.
Yeah, there's lots of Mercuries and Pontiacs and Cadillacs in Sun City.
And Buicks, yeah.
and well, I guess maybe not here in Sun City, but I saw another one of the worst brands was Subaru.
Really?
And they say Subaru rounded out the top three. Subaru is known for, in the northern U.S., that's the retiree's car.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
Yeah, the all-wheel drive. It's a kind of a
SUV, maybe.
It's a crossover SUV style,
Yeah.
a little bit lifted, just naturally lifted, and so it's easier for the older people to get into and out of. All that fun stuff. And yet they're one of the highest.
My wife and I usually go out to dinner Sunday. Like old people, we usually go early in the afternoon. And she always points out, notice all those old people in the restaurant? The next generation comes after we've eaten. But in the parking lot, we were going to our Tesla Model S, and I noticed a bunch of SUVs, at least over half of them, actually. So it looks like older people favor SUVs. But anyway, the rest of this article is that the Teslas may be among the safest vehicles on the road for crashworthiness. But that doesn't make them immune from lousy driving, they say. Now, the only what they surpassed was last year it was, or the year before it was the Ram that had the worst record, the Dodge Ram. The analysis was done with 30 car brands based on insurance inquiries from January to December of 2024. Tesla drivers had 36.94 reported incidents per 1,000 drivers, up from 31.93 in 2023, making them the worst on the road. And the term incidents, by the way, covers accidents, driving under the influence, speeding, and citations.
I guess at first I was confused about that. Why would you report, you get a ticket? But then, of course, the DMV is going to report tickets to the insurance agent.
Yeah. I remember getting pulled over for speeding one time many years ago when we still had radar detectors, and I had one mounted, underneath my rearview mirror. And the officer gets my license and all that, and he looks at me and he says, I can tell that you're a habitual lawbreaker with that radar detector. That kind of stuck with me.
For my story on the radar detector, same type of thing. The cop pulled me over. I was speeding and gave me the ticket. I think partly because he saw the radar detector in. And that was the point at which I realized that the radar detectors for a good police officer, they're more along the lines of telling you when you've been caught before the cop pulls out than they are of actually preventing any.
Yeah, yeah. There was a brand of radar detector, I think it was Valentine, that not only warned you that there was a radar trap ahead, but also reset the radar gun to 0 miles an hour. Now, that one is probably less legal than the other one.
Probably. That's funny.
So there you have it. The Tesla drivers didn't do well last year, and part of that may be all of that power that's inherent in the vehicles. It's kind of tough to stay off of the go pedal.
Definitely is. On Instagram, Fisktastic has asked a good question for us.
He's right.
Why are the vehicles driving into each other?
Well, artificial intelligence is not always intelligent the same way that humans are. So,
yes, we're about to witness an accident
Yeah.
in the space in between the two of us.
From YouTube, High Voltage and Performance Racing Team says, "Good day from Austin, Texas, y'all." Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. One of the things I wanted to share with you yesterday, we had a special podcast. It was the
Yes.
15-year anniversary of a tragic accident that happened with 3 Tesla engineers who were really key individuals in the small company in 2010. And one of the things I forgot that we never covered in the podcast was the people that they worked with, and Peter Rawlinson being one of them.
Oh, yes, that's true. We didn't cover that very well.
Yeah, Peter got there apparently in 2009 and worked very closely with these 3 engineers that lost their lives in the Palo Alto plane crash.
Yeah, when we were talking about it, weren't these 3 gentlemen and Drew Baglino, who at the last minute decided to take a commercial aircraft,
Right.
they were headed down to Los Angeles to meet with Peter Rawlinson and his team on the development of the Model S, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And there were others that we left out of that podcast that were actually involved with this group of 3. But for those of you interested, on our YouTube channel, it's one of our latest live podcasts, and it's called the Tribute to the 3 engineers. One of the noteworthy things is Tesla actually put an Easter egg into the 2.0 or the VIN 500 on up Tesla Roadsters, giving some tribute to these 3 engineers. So there's a place that you can go to on your little screen in a Tesla Roadster and actually collect those 3 names, and it says in memoriam. So those of you interested, YouTube, check it out. All right. It turns out that the PIF fund, and let me bring up an image here. There we go. It's a little bit larger than I want it to be. There we go. Let's go full screen. So here we go. Lucid Motors news. The PIF fund increased their holdings in Lucid by 400 million shares during the 4th quarter of 2024, last year. Where does that put them in terms of ownership? Right at about 75%.
Yeah, they own, I think I saw almost 2 billion shares now of Lucid. And I noticed this morning too that there's a subsidiary of the PIF fund that has its own separate holdings of Lucid. And if you count the combined holdings of the PIF fund itself and its subsidiary that has its own separate holdings, they own 78.2% of Lucid. And this has taken the stock market, I think, by pleasant surprise, because Lucid has been on a tear today. They started the day at about $3.29, and as of just before the show, they were up to $3.53.
Amazing. So the market is taking note.
Yeah, and they're running right at $3.49 right now.
So the PIF fund is the same group that actually talked to Tesla during the 420 tweet, and they were interested in getting into the EV space, and at one point in time considered Tesla. Ended up with Lucid. And they have been an investor in Lucid Motors since 2018. They continue to strongly support the company as it navigates, as they say, the evolving landscape of the electric vehicle market. But it is an impressive display of commitment if you think about it, having added this much to their ownership. And of course, the main concern about any of these EV companies, except for Tesla, is will they make it? Will they be able to go through the cash burn stage, through the development stage? You know, this is not a mature technology, and any company that decides to start manufacturing EVs has an enormous amount of engineering to do.
Right.
And it's not anything that they can go out and buy or go to the library and read in books. This is all development type work. The closest relief that they may have is companies like Lucid that are willing to license their technology.
Right.
So they just added to an already extensive position, and again, we feel that this demonstrates a deep belief in Lucid's innovative technology and their growth potential. It's like we've got some people chiming in. YouTube, Tom W. Hi from Germany. Tesla is not doing well here. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that really soon. We also have Niels on from YouTube, the Bion Danish Genome Institute from Denmark. He says Tesla is not doing well here. Thank you. Good to see. Good to hear from you, Niels.
It's amazing what an unplanned hand gesture will do to a large company's value like this. So we won't get into the politics there, but we acknowledge there's definitely a global impact. Maybe we can go right into that article, which was part of our podcast. Let me see if I can find it here. And I'll bring up an image for you as well. Here. Don't have the image for that
top
one.
right.
Top right.
Right there.
This one?
Yeah, isn't that where you're...
No, that's not it.
That's not the one you were looking for.
That's the ratio of ICE versus EVs. But,
okay.
Yeah, here we go. So what's happening here in the United States as well is that Tesla stores are being targeted by vandals and arsonists. So much so that the FBI is getting involved, which is, of course, the U.S.'s super cops. The Tesla stores here in the U.S. have become targets because of rising discontent with the company's CEO, Elon Musk, is the way they phrase it in this article. In one case, a Tesla store even became a target of arson. And it happened especially after Musk threw out 2 Nazi salutes at Trump's inauguration. A few examples of European anti-Nazi type reaction was a showroom in The Hague, which was vandalized with graffiti and swastikas. And the phrases such as "Nie tegen Nazis," which I guess translates into "F off fascists," was part of the graffiti. The group also projected Musk's salute and the World Heil onto the Tesla factory in Berlin.
Yeah, that's saying what has happened with the political side of Tesla has definitely damaged the Tesla brand a lot. I know we'll get more into this with the global sales. I took a look at Germany's sales, and one tidbit of that was Tesla year over year down 59%.
Yeah.
So they're not selling cars in Germany right now.
Yeah. And of course, it's at a very inopportune time because there is a strong alternative, China.
Yes.
And the Europeans are warming up to those cars rapidly.
Well, it's appearing that China and BYD specifically, but they're not the only one. They're making a quality car at an affordable price.
Mm-hmm. All right. Have another graph to throw up here, Jesse. And this is a interesting graph that shows the turning point, how the combustion engine cars peaked in 2018, and there's been a steady decline since then, which of course is exactly what we're looking for and hoping will happen. The article goes on to say, to decarbonize road transport, the world must move away from gasoline and diesel cars towards electric vehicles and other forms of low carbon transport. The transition has already started. The global sales of combustion engine cars is well past the peak and is now falling.
And that is in spite of the political climate changing so that it's not as friendly to EVs as it used to be. With Germany stopping their subsidies in 2023, at the very end of the year, the United States is widely expected to follow suit by the end of this year in 2025. Still, the EV revolution just chugs on.
We had a question up there from TikTok. Did it disappear, guys? There it is. From TikTok, G1 Up says, what is the best website to buy stocks for a newbie? My personal opinion about that is, having traded for 50 years now and used Merrill Lynch and a number of others, and I watch the people here that work here with Robinhood and other brokerage houses. I don't find any of them as full features as the one that I'm using, E-Trade. It will help you do your taxes at the end of the year.
Right.
It will let you do after-hours trading. All the information is available at your fingertips to any depth that you like. And the best part is, if you have a position, there is margin money available, which means essentially that you can borrow from E-Trade to do additional trading. And one of the strategies that I just recently became aware of is how rich people handle large holdings or large equity positions without paying taxes. Well, one of those is in the if you have a brokerage account and you have a large stock holding with a lot of equity in it, don't sell. Just trade against it using your margin account.
Ah, okay.
There you go.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So your principal never reduces; it stays there, and but your purchasing power or borrowing power continues to increase.
Right, it continues to increase. Yeah, I've used both E-Trade and I've used Robinhood quite a bit in both cases. I do like the information that E-Trade has available to it.
Yeah.
It's not as easy to use for the really rank newbie as Robinhood is, but I feel like E-Trade has better information overall.
That's true. There's always news and explanations why a stock is going up or down, and then you can make informed decisions. YouTube, Niels joined us again. He says, I don't think it is an Uncle Adolf greeting that made the Model 3 drop off their top 30. It is a broader downtrend caused by saturation, repair cost, and phasing out subsidies. He makes a good point, yeah.
I think he does make a good point, as is very typical. And if we can raise the next comment, Neil says, my impression, can we raise that in the screen? There we go.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you. My impression is that the majority has come to realize that EVs and their support are not quite ready yet. We've seen that here in the States. That's one of the reasons that we have Gruber Motors. It's an opportunity for people in the business to help support that. I also think Niels is largely right. The politics to me, I think politics has a little bit to do with it, but the much bigger impact is, why go buy a Model 3 for $45,000 when you can buy an equivalent BYD for $25,000?
Thank you for pointing that out, Niels, by the way. Watching Elon make that hand gesture, one has to think and ponder. Let's say that he was a raging white supremacist and that he believed the ideology and was a supporter. I think Elon is smart enough to realize that that is not going to be a globally popular position to take.
Correct.
So he would have been a closet white supremacist. So the gesture at this rally, I think, was a heartfelt, in fact, he had his hand on his heart first, right? A heartfelt gesture thanking the group of voters that he felt supported his candidate.
Yeah.
I don't think for a moment that he in any way intended to telegraph that he wanted to support a cause like the Nazi regime.
I agree.
However, there's a whole nother group of thought out there, and it is certainly seized and launched onto this to, for an agenda.
Yeah. Our next comment comes from TikTok, from Apple user with a bunch of numbers at the end. And I'd really like to have you come back to us again with where you're coming from in this case. because he says it's no way EV is going to work here. It was minus 38 this morning.
Wow, that is pretty cold. We're assuming Fahrenheit. If it was centigrade, forget it. Yeah.
Well, I having lived in an area where I've been in those temperatures, Fahrenheit and centigrade are the same number when you get to minus 40.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So
They cross over.
they
Yeah.
cross over again.
Right.
So when you're at minus 38, it's just about the same coldness either way. Either way, it's cold enough that you don't worry about how cold it is. It's just cold.
Guys, real quick.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to put your graph back up. We had issue where TikTok froze and they couldn't see your graph. So I'm pulling that back up real quick.
All right, let's do that. This is the combustion engine cars peaked in 2018. The blue band are the electric vehicles, of course, and you can see that the trend is in the right direction, replacing
Definitely is.
yeah.
Tom W. on YouTube has another good comment for us. He says, you can get stickers in Germany for your Tesla. And it says, I bought my car before Musk went crazy.
Yeah. Actually, I've seen that here in the States as well on at least one car. YouTube, EV Unedited says, if the Tesla Model S large drive unit had a small coolant leak, do you need to rebuild it if there is no symptom, or is an oil change enough? We just did one of these, by the way, and we had a small coolant leak.
Mm-hmm.
And the way to discover that is by taking the encoder assembly off of the side plate, and if it has any wetness or any coolant, you know you've got some migrating into the inverter housing. At that point in time, all you need to do is do a coolant delete plate, and those are plentiful in the aftermarket these days. That's what we did with one of our manager's cars, and
Yes.
it's running just fine. If you let it continue to leak, eventually it will kill that large drive unit or the inverter, which then typically is an entire replacement.
Yeah, and so the fact that you have no symptoms, no, an oil change is not enough. It will get worse over time because there's a seal that is failing that's causing the coolant to leak. So if you don't address the symptom, it will get worse.
Mm-hmm.
On Instagram, Oakshade104 says, could BYD have copied from Elon? I think so.
You think so?
I
Yeah.
absolutely think so.
Well, in the world of innovation and design, plagiarizing is very common. It's just that people don't admit it, or if there are patents to protect it, then they're not, they can't get away with it.
Well, I mean, who has not gone out, bought a piece of the competition's product, one of the competition's product, disassemble it, reverse engineer it, find out what weaknesses it has, improve on the weaknesses, file your own patent for an improved design, and then you didn't copy it.
Yeah, good point. YouTube, Sun Turtle Camper, what did he say after the salute? Also from Denmark. A rough recollection. Are you going to look it up?
Yeah, I'm going to
Perfect.
look it up.
Something like, I want to thank you all for...
I said my heart goes out to you.
My heart goes out to you. Okay. There you go. I think Mark is going to confirm that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can pull it up. There's clips on Twitter, I'm sure.
So you be the judge. Is this backlash warranted or not? All right, while we're looking that up, I have another image to pop up here for you, and this was pretty darn impressive, and Mark actually did a backstory on this. What we're looking at here are just millions of solar panels. This is the world's largest renewable energy park in Kavda, Gujarat, India. It spreads over 538 square kilometers, which is roughly 5 times the size of Paris.
Yeah, that's wow. By the way, my heart goes out to you, Musk said, just after the salute, and just before the salute, he had said, "I just want to say thank you for making it happen," and he was referring to the election of Donald Trump.
Yeah. And the hand initially on the heart and then outstretched was, an indication of attempting to give them his heart.
Yep, that's really what it was about. So the symbolism, well, obviously bad symbolism.
Yeah.
But the intent, no, he didn't have that intent.
What's interesting here in the United States, shortly after the backlash began to occur, there were a number of videos that were posted showing other U.S. political figures that made the same gesture, including the nearly Vice President Waltz, who made that same gesture in
Yeah.
the United States at a rally. So again, if you're looking for intent and suspicious that Elon may be a closet white supremacist, you're probably looking at the wrong, the wrong place.
Well, you just look at who has reported on whom, and you realize that at least in the United States, there's not very much of our press that is truly neutral and unbiased.
I was just watching something on Bill Maher, and it used to be that objectivity was very difficult in journalism, but today it's no longer even a consideration.
Yes.
You had an interesting story about all these solar panels that we had up
Yeah,
here.
let's go ahead and
Tell
put
us
the
about
picture
that.
back up.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. First, we see all the solar panels. What did you say? 535 square kilometers.
Kilometers, yes.
It is not just a solar park, though. It's also a wind park. So what you don't see in the picture are the number of windmills that they have in the area. It's financed by Gautam Adani. He happens to be the second richest person on Earth. He is Indian, and he obtained his wealth from coal mining.
Amazing.
This land that these are sitting on, because we've had a number of environmentally minded people who have said, "Hey, the solar panels disrupt the environment that they're being put on. They cause too much shade to hit the land, and it makes it damages the environment that they're around." This argument won't hold here, because this land is arid in the strictest sense. It's a salt plain or something similar to a salt plain where
Inhospitable to any kind of growth.
plant life basically doesn't grow here.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like you're going to start seeing plant life grow because it's partly shaded.
Mm-hmm.
It's salt. Plants can't grow in a really salty area. So with the saline soil and unable to grow crops, and it's a remote area, it's out away from the cities. That's one of their challenges, is getting, building an infrastructure, a community to support the infrastructure. It's known for high winds. It's known for dust storms. It's just just kind of a nasty area to be, but not for solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
India has a commitment to build 500 gigawatts worth of solar energy by 2030. And what we're seeing in this picture is really kind of the first phase of this. This build out, when it's completed, will be able to produce 30 gigawatts of energy per year. And that's enough to power over 16 million homes.
Amazing.
It's up by the Indian-Pakistani border. So I as I got into it, I thought, wow, this is just something else. This is fascinating. The guy thought really, really hard about, where do we put this in the way that'll have the least negative impact on the environment around us?
Mm-hmm.
And they're having to build desalination plants because you can't get water. You have to drill almost 2,500 feet to get water. And when the water comes up, it's all salty and brackish. So they have to desalinate the water for the community of people that they're building, who are going to maintain all of this infrastructure. And of course, they have to build the transmission lines and stuff to get them into the grid.
And what an interesting transfer from a dirty type of energy producing into something clean. This is reminiscent of the Saudi PIF fund. They realize that the oil gig is up. Let's get into something clean, and supporting Lucid.
Exactly, and he's very committed to this. He wants to see this grow. They've got about 2 gigawatts online, and they'll increase by another 3.5 to 4 gigawatts in 2025, and then by about 5 gigawatts per year increase in capabilities until 2030.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Got a video here that we can pop up. Let me see if this is going to work for me. It is a massive URL. Longest, but we'll bring up the browser, and I'm going to show you something, if it will allow me here, that is pretty remarkable. speaks volumes about the Chinese evolution into technology. Right, I'm going to have to bring this over here. Doable. Full screen. Go full screen on this guy. What we're starting to see here is a flying car. All right, how do we go full screen here? See that option. Well, for those of you that can see it, yeah.
It is more like a drone. I was trying to find
Yeah.
videos of this particular car. It's amazing the way that it works.
My point in bringing this, to the podcast is the Chinese are remarkable. They are becoming leaders in a number of different technologies. The bullet trains, for example.
Yeah.
The intercontinental, plane transport. They have a plane that they just announced that will go from L.A. to Paris in 2 hours or something like that. And of course, cars. How rapidly have they launched a product that is now becoming globally popular and exciting designs? You look at the U8 sports car. This thing rivals Lamborghini and Ferrari. It took those guys 80 years to develop this kind of look, technology, and style and reputation. So I'm very impressed with the Chinese, as I was with the Japanese in the last century, that turned around a stigma of low quality into leaders in a number of different fields in electronics.
Right. That reminds me of what that reminds me of is the Back to the Future. If you remember, Marty is talking to Doc in 1955. And Doc Brown takes a look at something that Marty has. He's like, well, of course, I know what your problem is. This thing was made in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Japan doesn't make anything but junk. He looked at him kind of strange because he's, playing the part of a 16-year-old kid. He's like, what are you talking about? All the good stuff comes from Japan.
Right. And of course, Marty was from the future.
And he was from 1985. So by 1985, all the good stuff was coming from Japan. And that's kind of what we're seeing now with China, I think, is that all the good stuff is going to be coming from China within the next few years.
Yeah, it didn't take them long. YouTube, me says he gave us his heart like an Indiana Jones. We're talking about Elon, folks, for those of you that just tuned in. Niels is saying another trend is that good, used, simple, and easily repairable cars from the 80s and 90s are surging in value. The choice between a $25,000 BYD or an $8,000 to $10,000 1998 Buick LeSabre is very easy.
Yeah.
It sounds like he likes vintage cars. Yeah.
I see that.
Oh, and they're so much easier to repair, Niels. You don't need firmware and redeploys and a laptop, and you just get your 7/16 wrench out and get under that hood, and you can fix those things in a heartbeat. Instagram, Oakshade104 on Instagram, ChageedEVs.com. Well, you can. All right, let me spell it for those of you that's not. Charged EVs. Okay. Was that you guys or the customer? They sometimes throw those in there because I'm Ron Burgundy. I'll read whatever they put up there.
Yeah, I have no idea what they were trying to reference because sometimes people spell stuff funny.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know if it was wrong or right. So
Thanks, Cass.
And I'm looking up their account right now, and I don't see one on Instagram, but there is a charged up _EVs. But I'm still not understanding what this.
Well, what Oakshade is wanting us to know, and the audience, is that they have they posted a big EV presentation, and it looks like chargedevs.com. So check it out if you get a chance. You can find it. Niels is also pointing out that many are fed up with expensive parts, planned obsolescence, complex electronics, features not needed, and poor parts quality from China. I better give my 38-year-old MB 190 another 10 years.
Yeah, I see that here in the States. A lot of people, if you are mechanically inclined,
Mhm.
there's a lot more people like I think me who I love my 1996 Chevy Silverado. I don't ever want to get rid of it, partly because it's easy to work on.
Mhm. Even the non-technical, non-mechanical people used to be able to drive down to a Checker Auto, O'Reilly's, an AutoZone, get a 12-volt battery and swap it out themselves with a half-inch wrench.
Yes,
You can't do that anymore. Everything is a dealer repair.
that's right.
Even for people knowledgeable, oftentimes,
Even for people knowledgeable.
because you don't have the software, you don't have the toolbox Tesla, redeploy software.
That's right. On YouTube, Finks Automotive says, "Good morning, joined late. Thanks for the great tribute to the Tesla engineers."
Yeah, thanks for joining us. That we were talking just a few minutes ago about some content that we left out. It turns out that Peter Rawlinson worked with these three guys as well. He got there in 2009. The accident happened in 2010. And like Mark pointed out, they were actually flying down to Hawthorne to meet with Pete Rawlinson and his engineering team on the Model S project.
That's right. Niels continues on YouTube. He says, "China's bullet trains run on pirated technology from Japan, and they have problems with vibration, etc. Same thing with most of what they produce."
Interesting. Did not know that. A lot of plagiarizing going on, I'm sure.
I'm sure there is. And the thing, Niels, is that the Chinese people are capable people, just like the Japanese have been capable people for decades.
Mhm.
They're going to work at it and they're going to figure it out.
When my son Peter was going to ASU,
Mhm.
which is a local university here, Arizona State University, for his engineering degree, known for their engineering programs, there was a significant portion of students that he graduated with that were Chinese.
Yeah.
They were sending them abroad to various universities. And of course, they take that information back to their country and begin to develop.
Yes. On YouTube, Mustafa El Gamel says, "There's a lot of talk about the BYD 25K EV, but comparing the actual sale prices in the UK with tariffs, the BYD Sea Lion 7 ends up ranging from £47,000 to 59,000 British pounds, while the Model Y is priced between 45 and 60,000 British pounds. It's pretty much the same price unless I'm missing something."
Interesting, yeah. And of course, we talked earlier about how Europe is beginning to favor Chinese product based on some of the complaints about Tesla.
Well, and yet the protectionism that is obviously there in the UK is also becoming much more rampant in Europe. The tariffs are going to be a thing. I think our generational shift, I guess is how I'll put it, toward free trade on Earth, I think that's largely over.
Mhm.
Here in the United States, we've got more of a protectionist attitude. I'm starting to see that in Europe as well. Places like China and Japan that have had trade surpluses for decades are going to be some of the biggest losers because it's going to be much harder for them to maintain those trade surpluses.
Interesting. So we have another picture to post up here, and this one just got released this week. Turns out global electric vehicle sales skyrocketed by 18% in January of 2025. There's some market dynamics that tend to soften markets at the end of each year.
Yeah.
And there were some reports that this was happening in the EV sector as well, and not to pay too much attention to the statistics. But if that's probably true, because look what happened in January of 2025, up 25% for global EVs. And the article goes like this, that Asia and Europe led the charge, driven by expanding EV infrastructure, government incentives, and rising fuel prices. Major players were Tesla, BYD, and Volkswagen saw record sales. Now, here's a company that's been languishing and we thought was in trouble, but it looks like they saw record sales in January. So the industry analysts predict continued momentum with the new model releases and battery innovations. Remember, that's something else that's coming along rapidly now. The batteries are getting cheaper as they're scaling, and the technologies are continuing to improve.
Definitely are. I wanted to take some time to focus on Germany because we reported on them about a year ago about the sudden ending of EV subsidies in the middle of December. Since we're a little over a year past that, what did Germany look like? EV sales overall were up 53.5% year over year. Now, since January was the month in 2024 where sales tanked, I thought, well, you probably want to take a look at a real year over year comparison, not necessarily January to January, though. The last month before the subsidies were suddenly ended was November of 2023. So if I took a look at January, where they sold 34,498 units, to November 2023, where they sold 35,107 units. That's impressive to me because that means that the sales have completely bounced back. They're not growing yet, but that loss of the subsidy has not made a difference. They're still purchasing at the same rate. Tesla sales, as we mentioned before, though, are down 60% in January year over year.
Interesting. Do you think that's because of additional competition now in Europe?
I think, as we were talking with Niels earlier, additional competition is the biggest thing. XPeng, BYD, both have very inexpensive models in Germany. Volkswagen is having record sales. Part of those record sales are some of the models that they have, and there's going to be German pride with those models. So the cars themselves are the biggest piece of this. I think politically there's a little bit of that going on.
It's all good, folks. EVs are taking over, and that's exactly what we're promoting. Instagram, MyCar204, he says, we want the VW TDI, turbocharged direct injection back. Pair that as a hybrid. Oh, tasty, he says.
Those TDIs, if it had not been for VW cheating on the diesel tests, because the TDIs were almost always diesel vehicles, those were sweet cars. They good power, excellent fuel mileage. It was something else.
All right, I've got another article here, and we've got a picture here we can pop up, Jesse. There we go. A new recycling method, they claim, turns used EV batteries into fresh materials for new ones. Well, I was kind of taking issue with this article because it's not really new. J.B. Strobel's company, Redwood Materials and Li-Cycle here in town. It's well known that lithium-ion battery recovery is high-grade ore.
Yes.
It's into the mid to high 90% recovery rates. But this article talks about a UK-based company called Altilium that has successfully recovered 97% of lithium and 99% of graphite from used batteries. It's a significant step, they say, toward a circular battery economy, which of course helps automotive manufacturers meet sustainability targets while reducing the dependence on raw material mining. And for Europe, mining of lithium ion is most likely South America, Bolivia, where they have the brine ponds. And then, of course, all that transport is involved and the costs to get it there. They say currently this company recycles nickel, manganese, cobalt, NMC batteries from leading UK-based automotive manufacturers and has begun processing LFP, or lithium iron phosphate batteries as well. So one final graph that will pop up here is lithium BYD, actually. Get that app. And the article goes like this, that China is starting to leave the U.S. in the dust. Tesla's sales fall in China 11.5% on a year-over-year basis in the month of January, while Chinese competitor BYD sales surged at an annualized 47%, according to the data from the Chinese Passenger Car Association. So there you have it. It looks like other competitors are beginning to grab market share. It doesn't mean that Tesla's going to be hurting. There's a huge market out there, but the shift is definitely occurring.
Well, Tesla has lost their early advantage of being the only one in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going to have to compete on different features and capabilities. A couple more comments from Niels. First, he says, in China, I am told it's all about prestige and pretense, and it's in their culture. Unlike the Japanese, who don't take pride in their, the Chinese don't take pride in their work.
Uh-huh.
They cut corners, and it's a me first attitude.
Interesting. So there's some cultural reasons for that as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he also says a group in Shenzhen claims they can revive lithium-ion batteries by injecting lithium ions into them. I think we're getting
I don't know.
good one, Niels.
I also think that those are the ones that sell you the little pocket flashlight that'll do a million lumens.
Yeah, right. Well, we are wrapping yet another EV podcast. As always, we enjoy having you join us, letting us know where you're coming in from. And our commitment is to bring you the latest and greatest in the sustainable energy world. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaff.